The scream tore through the forest like a knife through silk. Please. Somebody help me. But there was no one. Only trees that stretched endlessly into darkness, and behind her, the sound she'd been running from for the past hour. A wet, dragging sound. The sound of something that shouldn't be alive, but was. Sarah's bare feet bled as she stumbled over roots and stones. Her wedding dress, once pure white and beautiful, now hung in tatters. Mud streaked her face, mixing with tears and sweat. She dared not look back. She couldn't. Because if she did, she would see him again. Or rather, what was left of him. My wife, the voice called from behind her, patient and terrible. Where are you going? We are almost home. This couldn't be happening. This morning, she had been the happiest woman in the village. This morning, she had finally gotten everything she wanted. Let's go back. Let's go back to where it all began. 3 months earlier, the sun was setting over the village market, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Sarah sat on a wooden stool outside her mother's shop, a small mirror in her hand. She tilted her head left, then right, admiring the way the light caught her smooth dark skin, her high cheekbones, her full lips. Sarah, come help me pack these yams, her mother called from inside. In a minute, Mama. Her mother, Mrs. Grace, stepped out, wiping her hands on her wrapper. She was a sturdy woman with kind eyes that had seen too much disappointment lately. That mirror again. You'll wear out your own reflection. Can I help it if God made me beautiful? Sarah smiled, not looking away from her reflection. Beauty fades, my daughter. Character remains. So does poverty, Mama. And I don't plan to remain in it. Sarah finally put down the mirror and stood, smoothing her dress. It was her best one, bright yellow with embroidered flowers. She'd worn it deliberately today because she knew the young men would be returning from the farms. Grace sighed deeply. 3 good men have asked for your hand this year alone. Thomas, the teacher. Joseph, the carpenter. Even Chief's son, David. All of them decent, hardworking men. And you rejected every single one. Thomas is too short. Joseph's hands are too rough. And David? Sarah wrinkled her nose. His stomach arrives before he does. Sarah. I'm serious, Mama. I didn't ask God to make me the most beautiful girl in this village just to settle for ordinary. When I marry, it will be to the most handsome man anyone has ever seen. A man worthy of my beauty. Grace's face tightened with worry. Pride comes before a fall, Sarah. You're 23 now. How long will you wait? As long as it takes. Sarah picked up a basket of tomatoes. Besides, what's the rush? Let them keep coming. Let them keep begging. I'm enjoying the attention. From across the market, a group of young women watched her with barely concealed envy and irritation. Look at her, one of them muttered. Walking around like she's made of gold. My brother proposed to her last month, another added bitterly. She laughed in his face. Said he wasn't fit to carry her water. Someone needs to teach that girl a lesson. But Sarah heard none of this. Or if she did, she didn't care. She knew they were jealous. They'd always been jealous. Ever since she was 16 and started turning heads everywhere she went. Men would stop mid-conversation just to watch her walk by. Women would ask for her beauty secrets. Children would call her the pretty sister even though she had no siblings. The attention had fed something inside her. Something that grew hungrier with each compliment, each admiring glance, each rejected suitor. That evening, after the market closed, Sarah walked home with her mother in silence. The path wound through the village, past mud houses with thatched roofs, past the chief's compound, past the old Iroko tree where the elders sat and told stories. Old Papa John was there, as always, surrounded by children. His white beard reached his chest, and his eyes held the wisdom of 8 decades. As Sarah passed, he stopped mid-story and watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Good evening, Papa John," Grace called out respectfully. "Good evening, Grace." "Sarah." His eyes remained on Sarah. "You're looking very beautiful today, my dear." Sarah smiled, pleased. "Thank you, Papa John. But tell me," the old man continued, his voice taking on a strange quality, "what good is a beautiful pot if it's empty inside?" The children giggled. Sarah's smile faltered. "Or a beautiful tree that bears no fruit? Or a beautiful river that holds no fish?" Sarah's face flushed with anger. "I should get home, Mama." She walked faster, her mother hurrying to keep up. Behind them, Papa John's voice carried on the evening breeze, "Pride and beauty are old friends, but terrible masters." "Foolish old man," Sarah muttered when they were out of earshot. "He's the wisest man in this village," Grace said quietly. "You should listen to him." "Wise?" "He's jealous, like everyone else." "They're all jealous because they know I'm special." Grace stopped walking. "Sarah, you're my daughter and I love you. But this attitude will destroy you. Beauty is a gift from God, yes, but it's what you do with it that matters. Right now, you're using it like a weapon." "Good," Sarah shot back. "At least people respect weapons." She walked ahead, leaving her mother standing in the road, worry etched deep into her face. The weeks passed. More suitors came. More suitors were rejected. There was Michael, who owned 3 shops in the neighboring town. Too boring. There was Emmanuel, a rising politician. Too ambitious, not handsome enough. There was Peter, who traveled to the city and returned with money. His nose was crooked. Each rejection became a story in the village. Women clucked their tongues in disapproval. Men began to see Sarah as a challenge, a mountain to be climbed. The chief himself approached Grace with a proposal from a wealthy businessman in the capital. "Tell him my daughter says thank you," but no, Grace had to say, shame burning her cheeks. Sarah's reputation spread beyond the village. In neighboring communities, people spoke of the beautiful girl who thought herself too good for any man. Some admired her standards. Most thought her foolish. "She'll end up alone," they whispered. "Pride like that never ends well. Wait until her beauty fades. Then she'll see." But Sarah heard the whispers and only held her head higher. In her mind, she was teaching them all a lesson. She was showing them that a woman of quality shouldn't settle. That beauty deserved the very best. She didn't see the concern in her mother's eyes growing deeper each day. She didn't notice how even her childhood friends began to avoid her. She didn't feel the isolation creeping in like morning mist. All she saw was her reflection, and in it, she saw perfection. Then came the day that would change everything. It was market day again, the biggest one of the year. Traders came from distant villages. The air buzzed with voices haggling, laughing, shouting. The smell of roasted corn and fried plantains filled the air. Musicians played drums and flutes. Children ran between stalls, playing and begging for sweets. Sarah wore her finest dress, deep blue with golden threading. She'd oiled her skin until it gleamed. She'd braided her hair with colorful beads that clicked softly when she moved. She knew she looked spectacular. And she wasn't wrong. As she moved through the market, conversation stopped. People stared. Even the married women couldn't help but admire her, though their admiration was tinged with worry. "Grace's daughter is beautiful, yes," one elderly woman said to another. "But there's something about her today. Something that makes my spirit uneasy. I feel it too. Like the air before a storm." Sarah felt nothing but triumph. She was at the center of attention, exactly where she belonged. She moved slowly through the market, letting everyone see her, enjoying every admiring glance, every whispered compliment. Then she saw him. He stood near the fabric seller's store, and time seemed to stop. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. He was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Tall, with broad shoulders and perfect posture. His skin was smooth and unblemished. His face looked like something carved by an artist's loving hand, high cheekbones, strong jaw, full lips curved in a slight smile. His eyes were deep and dark, and when they met hers, Sarah felt her knees go weak. He wore simple clothes, but somehow they looked elegant on him. Everything about him radiated an unusual perfection, a beauty that almost didn't seem real. "Who is that?" Sarah whispered to the woman next to her. The woman followed her gaze and frowned. "I don't know. Never seen him before." The stranger smiled at Sarah. A slow, knowing smile that made her heart race. Then he began walking toward her. Sarah's hands trembled. In all her 23 years, no man had ever made her feel like this. She was usually the one who made others nervous, who held the power. But this man, there was something about him that turned everything upside down. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice smooth as honey. "You must be Sarah. Your beauty is even more remarkable than they said." "You've heard of me," Sarah managed to say. "Everyone has heard of the beautiful girl who refuses all suitors. I traveled 3 days to see if the stories were true." He stepped closer. "They didn't do you justice." Sarah felt her face grow warm. Behind her, she heard her mother approaching. "Sarah, we need to." Grace stopped when she saw the stranger. Her face went pale. "Sarah, come. Now." But Sarah didn't move. She couldn't. She was drowning in those dark eyes. "My name is Marcus," the stranger said, ignoring Grace completely. "I've come to ask your father for your hand in marriage." The market around them had gone quiet. People were staring, but not with their usual admiration. They were staring with something else. Something that looked like fear. "My daughter is not around," Grace began. "Yes," Sarah interrupted, her voice breathless. "Yes, come meet my father." "Sarah." Her mother grabbed her arm. "We don't know this man. Where is he from? Who is his family? Does it matter?" Sarah pulled away. "Look at him, Mama. He's perfect." Marcus smiled wider. "I'll come tomorrow evening, when the sun is setting. Until then, beautiful Sarah." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The moment he was gone, the market exploded with whispers. "Did you see him? Too perfect. No man is that perfect. Where did he come from? Did you notice his shadow? I couldn't see his shadow." Old Papa John pushed through the crowd, his face grave. "Grace, listen to me carefully. That man, he's not a..." "Not what?" Sarah snapped. "Not good enough for me either. Not human," Papa John said quietly. The crowd gasped. Sarah laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "You're all insane. Jealous and insane. For once in my life, I meet a man worthy of me, and you want to ruin it with your superstitions." "Sarah, please," Grace begged. "Listen to Papa John. He knows things. He's seen things." "I've seen enough," Sarah said coldly. "I've seen a village full of ordinary people who can't stand to see someone extraordinary be happy. Well, I don't care what any of you think. If Marcus comes tomorrow, I'll marry him." She stormed off, leaving her mother in tears and the village in shocked silence. That night, Grace didn't sleep. She sat by Sarah's bed, watching her daughter dream, probably of a handsome stranger. Grace's heart was heavy with dread. "My child," she whispered. "My foolish, beautiful child. What have you done?" In the darkness outside, something moved between the trees. If anyone had been watching, they might have seen a figure, impossibly tall, impossibly thin, and walking with joints that bent the wrong way. They might have heard humming, a tune that no human throat should be able to make. But everyone was asleep, locked safely in their homes. Everyone except Grace, who prayed until dawn. The next evening came too quickly. Sarah spent the entire day preparing. She bathed in scented water. She wore her best wrapper and blouse, white with gold embroidery. She painted her lips and lined her eyes. She looked like a bride already. Grace had tried one more time that morning. "Sarah, please. Let's send word to Marcus that we need more time. Let's find out about his family, his village. This is not how things are done. This is exactly how things are done when you're special, Mama. Normal rules don't apply to people like us. There is no us, Sarah. There's just you and your pride." But Sarah wouldn't listen. She sat by the window, waiting, her heart pounding with excitement and something else, something she refused to name. Something that felt almost like fear. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Marcus appeared. He walked up the path to their house, and Sarah's breath caught again. He was even more handsome than she remembered. Perfect in every way, too perfect. Sarah's father, James, was a quiet man who rarely interfered with his wife and daughter. But even he looked uneasy as Marcus entered their home. "Good evening, sir," Marcus said, his voice respectful. "I've come to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage." James cleared his throat. "Sit down, young man. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from?" "A village very far from here." "You wouldn't know it." "What's it called?" Marcus smiled. "It has no name that you would recognize. But I promise you, I can provide well for your daughter. She'll want for nothing." "What about your family?" "Your parents. They are waiting to meet her. In fact, I'd like to take Sarah to meet them tonight, if you'll allow it. My village is a day's journey from here." Grace stood up abruptly. "Absolutely not. You can't take our daughter tonight. This is too fast. We need time." "Time for what?" Sarah said angrily. "Mama, you're embarrassing me." "I don't care," Grace said, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, please. Something is wrong. Can't you feel it?" But Sarah felt nothing except frustration. Finally, she had what she wanted, and her parents were ruining it. "Papa, tell her. Tell her I'm old enough to make my own decisions." James looked between his wife and daughter. He saw Grace's tears and terror. He saw Sarah's determination and excitement. He was a simple man, but he wasn't a fool. He'd lived long enough to know that sometimes parents had to let their children make mistakes, even terrible ones, or lose them forever. "Grace," he said softly. "She's made her choice." Grace let out a sob and ran from the room. "Thank you, sir," Marcus said, standing. "Shall we have the ceremony now? I've brought everything we need." It happened so fast. Marcus had brought a local priest, a man Sarah had never seen before. He had brought witnesses, people from his village that no one recognized. He had brought everything needed for a wedding. Within an hour, Sarah was married. She stood in her parents' small living room, holding Marcus's hand, feeling like she was in a dream. She'd gotten everything she wanted. The most handsome man in the world was now her husband. So why did she feel so cold? "We should leave soon," Marcus said. "It's a long walk, and we want to reach home before morning." "Before morning?" James frowned. "If it's a day's journey, you won't arrive until tomorrow evening." "We walk fast," Marcus said simply. Sarah went to pack a small bag. Her mother wouldn't come out of her room, wouldn't say goodbye. Sarah felt a pound of guilt but pushed it away. Her mother would see, eventually. She'd see that Sarah had been right all along. As Sarah and Marcus prepared to leave, Papa John appeared at the door. His face was ancient and sad. "Sarah," he said. "I'm going to tell you something. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. But I need to say it." He took a breath. "There are things in this world that are not as they seem. There are spirits that can borrow what they don't have, wear what isn't theirs. They can walk among us, talk like us, smile like us. But they are not us. And when the borrowed things are returned, only the truth remains." Sarah laughed nervously. "Papa John, you're speaking in riddles. Then let me be clear. The man you married is not a man. And the journey you're about to take will teach you a lesson about pride that you'll never forget. If you survive it." Marcus's face remained pleasant, but something flickered in his eyes. Something cold and ancient. "Come, wife," he said. "Let's go home." Sarah hesitated for just a moment. But then she looked at Marcus, at his perfect face, his perfect smile, and she pushed Papa John's words away. "Goodbye, Papa John. Maybe when we return, you'll apologize for trying to ruin my happiness." They walked into the night. Behind them, Papa John watched until they disappeared into the darkness. Then he went to sit with Grace and James, who would not sleep that night, or many nights to come. The path started out familiar. It was the main road that led out of the village, the one Sarah had walked 100 times. But as they walked further, it began to change. The trees grew closer together. The sounds of the village faded faster than they should have. The moon, which had been bright and full, seemed dimmer now. "Is it much further?" Sarah asked. Her feet were already tired, and they'd only been walking an hour. "Not too far," Marcus said. His voice sounded different now. "Less smooth. Just keep walking." They walked in silence for a while. Sarah tried to make conversation several times, but Marcus's answers became shorter and shorter. He walked ahead of her now, his pace faster than before. Sarah had to almost run to keep up. "Marcus, please slow down." He didn't answer. He didn't even turn around. That's when Sarah began to feel it. The fear she'd been pushing down all day. It bubbled up now, cold and insistent. "Marcus." Still no answer. But she heard something. A voice, calling from the trees. "Friend. Friend, wait." Marcus stopped. Sarah nearly crashed into him. A figure emerged from the trees. It was a man, tall and thin, with a strange way of moving. He smiled at Marcus, and his teeth seemed too white, too many. "Friend," the man said again. "I've been waiting for you." "I know," Marcus said. His voice was different now. Completely different. It sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away. "Can I have it back now?" the stranger asked. "Yes," Marcus said. Then, before Sarah's horrified eyes, Marcus reached up and removed his right leg. Just took it off, like it was a piece of clothing. He handed it to the stranger. Sarah screamed. The stranger took the leg and walked back into the trees, and Marcus, or whatever Marcus really was, continued walking. But now he moved strangely, hopping and dragging. "What was that?" Sarah's voice shook. "What just happened?" "Keep walking," Marcus said, not turning around. No, I'm going back." Sarah turned to run, but the path behind them was gone. Where there had been a road, there was now only thick forest, impossible to pass through. "You can't go back," Marcus said. "You're my wife now. You have to come home with me. This is insane. This is..." "Keep walking," he said again, and something in his voice made Sarah's blood freeze. She walked. What else could she do? Tears streamed down her face, but she walked. 10 minutes later, another voice called out. Brother! Brother, stop. Another figure, this one shorter, wider. He grinned at Marcus. Can I have them back? He asked. Yes, Marcus said. He removed both arms. Just reached across with one arm, pulled it off, and then somehow removed the other. He handed them to the figure, which disappeared into the trees. Sarah collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Please. Please, whatever you are, let me go. Marcus, now without a leg and both arms, turned to look at her. He looked like something from a nightmare, a torso and head and one leg, balanced impossibly. We had a deal, he said. You wanted the most handsome man. I gave you what you wanted. Now you give me what I want. What do you want? He smiled, and this time she saw his teeth. They were pointed, sharp. I'll show you when we get home. They continued. Sarah tried to run several times, but the forest was alive, hostile. Branches grabbed at her. Roots stripped her. The path led only one way, forward, deeper into darkness. More figures came. Each time, Marcus gave back another piece. His other leg. His torso. His shoulders. Each piece belonged to someone else, borrowed for his journey to the human world. Finally, as dawn began to break, only a head remained. It rolled along the ground, somehow propelling itself forward. Its eyes still watched Sarah. Its mouth still smiled. That's when Sarah ran.
Please.
She ran like she'd never run before, her wedding dress tearing, her feet bleeding, her lungs burning. But the head followed, rolling impossibly fast, humming a tune that made Sarah want to tear out her own ears. My wife, it called. Where are you going? We are almost home. Sarah ran until she couldn't run anymore. She collapsed against a tree, gasping, crying, praying. The head rolled up beside her. This close, she could see it clearly. It wasn't Marcus at all. It was a skull, ancient and yellowed, with bits of dried skin stretched across it. The eyes were hollow sockets that somehow still saw. The mouth moved even though it had no throat, no lungs. You wanted to marry the most handsome man, the skull said. So proud. So sure you deserve the best. Well, you got what you wanted. I borrowed beauty for you. I wore perfection. And you never looked deeper. Never asked questions. Never saw past the surface. Sarah could barely breathe. Please, let me go. But you're my wife now. That's what you wanted, isn't it? To be married to perfection. The skull laughed, a sound like wind through empty bones. I have a nice place for you in my world. The spirit world. Other wives there too. They were all beautiful. All proud. All learned the same lesson you're learning now. I'm sorry, Sarah sobbed. I'm sorry for my pride. I'm sorry for rejecting good men. I'm sorry for thinking I was better than everyone. Please, I'll change. I'll be different. Just let me go home. The skull was quiet for a long moment. Sarah held her breath. Then, you'll change. You'll really change. Yes. Yes, I promise. Prove it, the skull said. Prove you've changed. How? How can I prove it? Tell me, the skull said softly, rolling closer. Am I beautiful now? Sarah looked at the skull. At the hollow eyes and yellow bone and dried skin. At the thing that had tricked her, trapped her, terrified her. She knew what it wanted. It wanted her to lie, to say yes, to prove she'd learned nothing. But something inside Sarah broke. Maybe it was the terror. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was finally, truly seeing herself reflected in those hollow eyes. Whatever it was, truth came pouring out. No, she whispered. You're not beautiful. You're horrible. But you're also right. I was horrible too. Not my face, but my heart. I was ugly inside, where it matters. I rejected good men because they weren't perfect enough. I hurt people because of my pride. I made my mother cry and broke my father's heart. I turned myself into something as hollow as you are, as empty. A beautiful shell with nothing inside. She took a shuddering breath. If you kill me now, I deserve it. But if you let me live, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making up for who I was. I'll marry whoever my parents choose. I'll be kind instead of cruel. I'll see people's hearts instead of just their faces. I'll learn that beauty without goodness is just another kind of ugliness. The skull was silent. The forest around them was silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then the skull began to change. It grew transparent, fading like morning mist. As it faded, a voice echoed through the trees, ancient and neither male nor female. Pride is a beautiful trap, child. So many fall into it. So few climb out. You've been given a rare gift, a second chance. Don't waste it. The skull vanished. Suddenly, Sarah could see the path home. It was right there, clear and obvious. The sun was rising, beautiful and warm. Birds were singing. Sarah ran. She ran all the way back to her village, through the familiar streets, past the market, to her mother's house. She burst through the door. Grace screamed and grabbed her daughter. Sarah. Oh my God, Sarah. We thought you were dead. Mama, Sarah sobbed. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. James came running. They held their daughter while she cried, while she told them everything, while she apologized over and over for her pride, her foolishness, her cruelty. The whole village came to hear her story. Papa John smiled a sad, knowing smile. The spirits teach harsh lessons, he said. But those who survive them become wise. Sarah did change. The transformation wasn't instant, but it was real. She apologized to every man she'd rejected and humiliated. She helped her mother in the market without complaint. She sat with Papa John and learned his wisdom. She started teaching the young girls in the village, warning them about the dangers of pride and vanity. 6 months later, Thomas the teacher asked her father for her hand again. Thomas, whom Sarah had once rejected for being too short. Grace worried Sarah might fall back into her old ways. But Sarah said yes before her mother could finish asking the question. He's a good man, Sarah said simply. That's all that matters. At the wedding, Sarah wore no makeup. She dressed simply. But she smiled, truly smiled, in a way she never had when she was beautiful and proud. And somehow, in that moment, she was more beautiful than she'd ever been before. Because true beauty, as she'd learned the hardest way possible, comes from the heart. The village never forgot Sarah's story. Mothers told it to vain daughters. Fathers won proud sons. It became a legend, passed down through generations. The story of the beautiful girl who married a spirit and learned that the most important beauty is the kind that can't be seen in a mirror. And somewhere, in the space between the human world and the spirit world, a skull stops its rolling and smiles. Another one learned. Another one changed. Another soul saved from the trap of pride. The lesson complete. If you enjoyed this tale from my mother's heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Drop a comment below telling me what lesson you learned from Sarah's journey. Did this remind you of someone you know? Have you ever let pride cloud your judgment? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to like this video. Your support helps me bring more stories from the cradle of myths to life. Until next time, remember, true beauty lives in the heart, not the mirror. See you in the next story.